Okay. Yes, good morning everyone again. We will continue to cost leadership and differentiation strategies today. I think we have left here, and let me start it. Okay. Yes. Okay. Last week we talked about generic strategies of Porter. He introduced that, and it's a very popular topic in strategic management. Almost every strategic management course, every student of business are aware of these generic strategies, cost leadership and differentiation. And what was the main driver of this mentality is to gain and sustain competitive advantage, right? To gain and sustain some competitive advantage, you need to be better than your rivals. And how could you be better than your rivals? Porter says in two ways, generally in two ways. One, if you can control your costs better than your rivals. Then the two, if you can add value, add specialties, features, design better than your rivals. In both cases, you enjoy some larger profit margin. In the first case, you decrease the cost margin so that your profit margin becomes larger. In the second case, you increase your price because of your design, because of your added specialty, and by this way, you enjoy a larger profit margin. And what are some cost drivers then that we can control while we think about cost leadership strategy, right? I mean, first of all, economies of scale. It's a very basic concept. I think all of you are familiar with that. When you produce some product more and more, if you have the ability of economies of scale, which means the average cost per unit will decrease, right? I mean, if you produce only 1,000 cups, for example, the average cost per unit will be $1. But if you produce 10,000 cups, it will become 50 cents maybe, right? So it gives you an advantage of economies of scale. And while you continue to learn and increase your experience, it means that you can do things more easily, more cheaply. For 100% capacity, it means that you have an additional cost, because when you don't use that capacity, it means that you lose that potential money, right? So it's also important. Supply chain efficiencies. We see that supply chain value chain, if you remember, right? This value chain. And supply chain is something here, inbound logistics, operations, and something like raw materials that you buy from other suppliers. If you have an efficiency here, if you have can reach them cheaper than your rivals, which means you have an advantage also there. Input costs, also if you can reach the material with a lower price. Your technology and design sometimes give you an advantage to produce them cheaply. Your communication systems, information technology, all of them actually gives you this advantage, right? And your bargaining power. Think about that. You are selling products all over Turkey. You are manager of right? And him orders, it will order maybe thousands of bottles of Coca-Cola a day, right? And when a market comes, it only says, okay, 10, 20 for a week, right? So it gives you a huge bargaining power if you have big operations. Also, it's a cost driver. Okay, so sometimes you can jump some of the aspects of value chain, sell directly to customers. For example, you have some contracts with some distributors or dealers. You sell them and they sell the customers. And these distributors, right, they put their own profits on their margin. I mean, you sell them 10, they sell it to 15, for example. I mean, sometimes we can bypass them. When you bypass them, it means that you want to sell directly to the customers, right? You don't want to lose money to them. For example, sometimes big fast food chains try that. Yemek Sepeti, as you know, is dominating the market, and they charge huge amounts of money on restaurants. A regular restaurant pays them 12% of their sales, 12%. And big fast food chains like Burger King, Domino's, Pizza Hut, they can deal with them only 8%, but it's also a very big amount, 8% sales, giving them to Yemek Sepeti is a big money. And some of the fast food chains tries to sell their products on their online applications. For example, but as Domino's Pizza or Burger King, they don't want to sell it anymore on Yemek Sepeti, and they create their own e-commerce website. And they want to sell that. How they want to do that? Mission to the right? Rather than giving them money, you want to sell directly. And let's shift to technologies. It's also shopping centers, shopping malls. They are more expensive, right? Why it occurs? Because when they sell directly on the internet, it means that they are bypassing their stores, right? They don't need any stores to warehouse them. They don't need to pay any worker there. They don't need to pay rent to the shopping mall, right? So it's actually bypassing that distributors, that stores, and the internet gives a lot of chance in terms of here. Like that. What else? What kind of characteristics we can talk about on cost leadership? Generally, doing your operations with low costs, with better output. Having the same input, creating more output. That's what we call efficiency. Okay. And also they want to avoid marginal customer accounts. I mean, what do we mean by marginal? Some customers maybe require some very specialized products, and serving them could add you some additional costs, right? By avoiding this, you focus on the regular market. You produce standardized products, so you don't need to change every part of it, right? So you can protect your costs and you can decrease your costs. And strict attention of production controls, yes, because when you control your production, you can see that where the costs occurs more, right? How can you design your production in more efficient way, more cost-friendly way? And rigorously, it means the average unit price will decrease, your costs decrease. And you don't need to have wide product lines, maybe a few is enough for you. And you aim at average customers, not all the customers, or not, for example, some specific customer groups like rich people, like students, like, I mean, bureaucrats, right? I mean, you focus on average one, everyone. I mean, who will buy Coca-Cola, right? I mean, everyone drinks, right? Everyone, average people, the customer groups. But when I ask you who will buy some watch, for example, Rolex watch, right? I mean, it's a specific average customer group, not average customer, specific group, luxury, rich people have Rolex watch, right? So this is cost leadership's characteristics. What about the others? Employee participation in continuous cost improvement efforts. I mean, you ask your employees on how can I decrease my costs, okay? For example, you have engineers, you have some chefs, you have some people, blue-collar workers, I mean, working in the production, and you ask them, okay, what is the problem here? Is there any problem? Is there any way that we can control our costs? And they give you some advice, some arrangements. For example, you are using 10 kilograms of a raw material and produce, let's say, 5 kilos of end product. Okay, I mean your productivity is here half, 50% with the raw material when you compare it. But when you make some adjustments and with 10 kilogram of raw material, if you can produce 8-9 kilogram, it means that your productivity is very high, right? Or you can think them in the human resource terms, right? An average person, average employee maybe can produce 10 units per hour. If you can increase it to 20 units, right? It means you can increase the productivity of that company. So, strategic focus here is keeping cost as low as possible, okay? Efficiency and all function strategies, capabilities are directed at efficiency. Efficiency, productivity, the lower costs. This is the idea of cost leadership. When we take 5 forces, you remember 5 forces, right? Porter's 5 forces. I think all of you remember, right? Someone can help and say yes at least.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, how these 5 forces can be applied to cost leadership strategy, right? For example, what kind of entry barrier could a cost leadership strategy company who have a cost leadership strategy can apply, right? So, when there's a company who is able to cut prices to discourage potential entrants to the market, it's a good force for them, right? They can protect their position against new rivals, against newcomers. And buyer power, they have a bargaining power, you mentioned about that, because when you order much and your price compared to your rivals. And you can protect right? And
Sorry, sir.
substitution you can able to make also able. Do you want to say something?
Yes, I can't hear you well. I think it's about the internet connection.
Yeah, I think there is something wrong.
Okay, now, can you hear? Mohammed, all of you have the problems. Same.
Yes, that's about
Yes.
everyone.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you, I think, for a minute, I think.
Okay. Now, how is it?
Now it's good.
Yeah.
Now it's good. Okay. Sometimes it goes and comes, but if you can hear me now, I can continue. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for
Now-
now.
Okay. Okay, let me know if you just can't hear. Okay, what was we saying? Actually, the main idea here in all of these 5 forces, a cost leadership strategy fight with lower costs. Okay, for example, through their rivals, to their competitors, they can cut the prices. To discourage potential entrants, they cut the prices. For their customers, the buyer power, they can offer them lower prices so people can come and buy them. For the suppliers, they can bargain, have a bargaining power to buy it from lower prices. So on, like that. So there's a misconception, this is very important. Cost leadership does not necessarily mean that you sell at the lowest price, okay? I mean, you can charge an average price, but cost leadership is about controlling your costs. It doesn't mean a cost leader is who sells at the lowest price, okay? This is very important. Sometimes because the companies who sell at lowest price, they give you very bad quality, very low quality. And in the long run, customers don't like it and they don't want it. They just change the company, and it's not a competitive advantage. They cannot sustain it. Only selling at low prices does not mean that you have a cost leadership advantage, okay? A cost leadership is you can provide a standardized quality, okay, a standardized quality, not low quality. I mean, low cost leadership does not mean low quality. Don't forget that. I mean, you go to BIM, the product quality is not low, right? I mean, the product quality is average. I mean, you cannot find their bad quality products. I mean, of course, some of the products maybe you don't like it, but their products actually have a standardized quality, okay? So you cannot say that they have a low quality. They have a standardized quality and they can provide it with the average price. And sometimes this average price is lower than the competitors to gain a competitive advantage. This is very important. There is a very general misconception about them. Okay. Actually, we talk about this, the benefits of cost leadership. Enjoy higher average profits, blah, blah, blah. You can defend your market share, build market share. However, there are some risks, right? Because engaging in cost wars and price cutting wars eventually would have a bad impact on you. I mean, consider BIM and A101. Okay, BIM announced a campaign, cut the prices, and A101 announced another campaign, he also cut the prices. Then Shock also cut the prices. Then BIM further cut the prices. So think it like that. I mean, actually, in the end, in the long run, they are losing from their profit. They are sacrificing their profit margin, and it can become a way that it can come to a point that they sometimes have losses, right? When a new entrant, for example, or a rival better control their costs than you, it can decrease the prices better than you, so you can lose, okay? And as technology improves, your competitors maybe learn new technologies and eliminate your competitive advantage. And it is very difficult to sustain this in the long run, right? And also focus strategy following companies might be able to achieve lower costs with their segments. The focus strategy, I will come to that. What does that mean? But these risks occur, right? I mean, lowering the cost does not always give you a sustainable advantage. Okay, let's move on to differentiation. What is that? What does differentiation mean? I mean, actually, the concept itself gives some clues about us. So it's an ability of a company to provide a non-standardized, unique and superior value to buyer. In terms of the product quality, features and service, okay? And actually differentiation, the main difference here is providing a different value, okay? And this value could be provided in all segments of value chain, okay? It could be a design, it could be a technical specialty, features, technical features. It could be after services. It could be logistics. It could be anything that the customer value. Okay, so that they can give more money. They can tend to spend more money. Okay, on your products rather than the standardized ones. Differentiation also aims broad mass market like cost leadership, but they can put higher premium prices because their customers are less sensitive to price. Customers value differentiation features more than the money, more than the price. Okay, and it can be associated with, as I said, design, brand image, technology features, network, anything, value chain. I mean, any part of the value chain. Differentiation could have created additional value for their customers. I mean, think about that, the brands that you are loyal. Okay, are you loyal to any brand? One of you want to talk about this? Do we have anyone who is loyal to a brand? And tell us why. For example, what is your smartphones? Any one of you say that I use iPhone, for example, or I cannot use other smartphone brands, or clothes, or anything? No?
No.
No.
No, just
Hocam, we are poor people. We don't have that problem. Actually, I am also not that have a loyalty to a brand, but this is something like that. I mean, some products are managed to create a perception in their customers' eyes. Okay, they provide a lifestyle. They give a style to the consumers. Okay, when they use that product, they can show their personality, show their lifestyle, show their thinking. I mean, so they are addicted to that product in somehow. Okay, I mean, how can they do it? They make some advertisements, they make marketing strategies. There are lots of things, but here the customers are more sensitive to the features, to the product, right? Not to the cost only. I mean, normally in a rational market, for example, if you have two alternatives, A and B, okay, one alternative is 100 Turkish liras, the other alternative is 50 Turkish liras. I mean, which one should you buy? Normally, if they have similar features, you need to buy 50 liras, right? I mean, in rational economics, people save their costs, right? They want to buy the lower cost one. Mustafa, do you want to say something?
Yes, sir. There was a
Let me
connection
continue.
problem
But
at that time.
sometimes people, you see that. Okay, let me change my place then. Okay, please let me move my computer.
I think there was a noise.
Okay, can you hear me now better?
Yes.
Yes,
I
that's better.
changed my place.
Yes.
I come closer to the Wi-Fi, and I hope we will not have a problem. Okay, what we are talking about? A differentiation strategy could give you above average returns, okay? Because it gives firm the ability to charge premium prices, which can generate higher profits. And it generates a customer loyalty, and customers become more sensitive to the price. And it creates an entry barrier as well into the market, because you see that the customers are very loyal to that brand and they don't want to change it. And you are afraid of having to compete with that rival, right? And how can you gain that competitive advantage, right? Sometimes it could be a tangible feature, like a style. Tangible means that you can see, right? Or intangible feature is a buyer image, a brand image, right? And it satisfies the buyer in non-economic ways, okay? For example, wearing a cloth which is very expensive, right? Which is very Lacoste, for example. It can give the message to the others that you have a lifestyle, or a different lifestyle. So maybe because of that, people like it, okay? People give that crazy money to that just one pair of t-shirt, maybe 500 Turkish lira, right? It's crazy, but they are giving that price to that company. What is the difference? Okay, is the product that quality? I mean, it's just a cloth, right? Okay, it's a quality cloth, but how come they can charge 10 times more than an average rival? It's a brand. It's the brand value. So it's a lifestyle. I mean, maybe the customers who buy that product not everyone could buy that product, okay? I mean, I want to buy that product, and I want to feel differentiated, because luxury thing, okay? And signal the value of the product by packaging, placement, advertising, and find ways to differentiate. How can you find ways to differentiate? For example, innovation, technical superiority, product quality, comprehensive customer service, unique competitive capabilities, long-standing relationship with buyers. All of these are important in differentiation. I mean, especially in electronic products, some companies are very successful at doing that, right? When there's a problem with that product, for example, when you go to customer service, they can be easily reachable. You can reach them, you can make complaints, and they can easily change your product, right? They don't want to upset you. So it creates a customer loyalty to them. But there are some companies, you buy them cheap, but when there's a problem with that product, you cannot reach anyone, right? They don't answer phones, they don't reply to your emails. So you feel that you are fooled. And the next time you want to buy some product, you say, okay, I will pay more money, but after that I will be relaxed, because it's a value for you, right? And after services, customer services, it's a value for you. And what kind of drivers that we can mention on differentiation? Quality, product features and performance, customer services, as we mentioned, production and R&D. R&D is something because when there's the first time the smartphones are introduced into the market, when Apple first introduced iPhone, right? It was very shocking, right? I mean, everyone wanted to buy that product. It's a very new product. I mean, the rivals are not, they have not produced yet, but by the time passes, Samsung produced, Xiaomi, and Huawei. I mean, many other competitors come to the fore, and that R&D production, that new innovation becomes old. So technology and innovation actually give you an advantage in, right? Short product life cycles they have, and then you need to increase, or you need to provide new technologies, new innovations. Okay. Input quality, the raw materials quality that we use, employees, sales and marketing, all of these actually are value drivers. What do we mean by value? Let me repeat it again. Last week I said also. Think about the value chain, okay? A value chain from the suppliers to the customers, all of the things, all of the steps that you do in your operations in any of that value chain. Okay, if you can provide an additional value, additional thing that customers like, okay, that customers want to pay, it becomes a value that we call it value. Okay. So what kind of characteristics differentiation has? So it asks you to develop some new strategies and make you apart from your competitors, make you different from your competitors. Okay. How? You need to arrange your all functional strategies, all capabilities, aim to understand the market and develop some product features that are valued by customers. I mean, it's important to know what customers want, okay, and how they can value, how they can provide, give you additional money, more money. And you need to control the costs, but not as strict as the cost leadership perspective, because sometimes to add some feature, to add some design, to increase the quality, you need to spend more. But it does not mean that the differentiation strategy does not look at costs. Okay, they also look at costs. I mean, why is Apple is operating in China, right? Why do they have a factory in China? Why do they produce in China? Because of the cost, right? They can have lower costs, but they are applying a differentiation strategy as well. I mean, it does not mean that cost is not important for differentiation strategy. It's important. It's another misconception. I mean, when you imagine differentiation strategy, we only think on luxury products and they don't think about cost because they can sell it at any prices. It's not like that. I mean, you are selling above average prices, but it does not necessarily mean that every product of yours is very, very, very expensive. Okay. And if you have applied differentiation strategy, you need to have broad and wide product lines because you need to satisfy different customers' needs. I mean, not every customers are the same. So you need some different product lines. You need to satisfy all of them. You don't want a standardized production, okay? Has many market segments, product features, yes. Service to establish a brand loyalty is important. And competitive capabilities tends to be in marketing and research development. Yes, I mean, marketing and research is very important for differentiation. The benefit is you can able to ask a premium price. Demand for it is less elastic. I mean, for example, if you are an average customer who only looks at cost, I mean, you can change your firm, right? I mean, you can rather go to BIM or IUSBID or other places. It doesn't necessarily, it does not create a feeling that I need to be loyal to the BIM. I want to buy from there, right? I mean, you can easily change. We call it elasticity, demand elasticity, right? But when it's a differentiation product, when you have established some connection with that brand, you don't want to change it easily. I mean, elasticity with it. Again, when we think about 5 forces, you can create entry barriers because of your customer loyalty. Your buyers generally have a less power to negotiate because there are less alternatives, because it's hard to imitate your differentiation products. Better to able to pass on supplier price increase to customers. For example, when the supplier increases the prices, right? Because their customers are not sensitive to the prices. So when the raw materials price increase, the price of the product could increase. But the cost leadership strategy cannot do that. Cannot directly pass the increase to their prices. Okay, this is an advantage for them. By customer and brand loyalty, they deal with the threat of substitution and rivalry as well. Of course, there are some risks. I mean, it's very difficult to sustain differentiation. It involves higher costs. there is a risk of creating some differentiation that customers do not value. Okay, you can create some product is very differentiated, very high quality, very beautiful features, but customers may not like it. So what will be all the money that you spent on R&D? And it's a very common thing, especially in new technologies, new innovation. Okay, this is one of the other things. What else? Customers might become price sensitive and price rather than uniqueness sometimes, especially in crisis times, right? Economic crisis times. Maybe 10 years before in Turkey, while our currency is more powerful, we can buy, for example, easily the technological products, and we can buy it more frequently. But now we become more price sensitive because we have economic crisis now. It could be a threat for differentiation strategy as well. Sometimes differentiation features become less important to the customers over time, and imitators can imitate your products, right? I mean, and it's also a problem. Okay, what's the focus strategy? The focus strategy is applying this cost or differentiation strategy on a specific segment of that market. Okay, specific segment, not all a broad market. Do not want to sell it everyone. You just specify on, let's say, women. You just specify on students, or a specific target group in Ankara, Çankaya. Okay, or a specific target group in university students. Okay, and by this way, when you focus on specific groups' needs, you can produce products satisfying their specific needs. Okay, so it requires, of course, identification of a target group, knowing their needs, and then producing the products as they need, and decision on whether you apply a cost leadership strategy or differentiation strategy. So cost focus, okay, a particular buyer group, product line, geographic market you can focus. We can give the here the example of IKEA. I mean, they are producing furnitures at a low cost, and they are focusing generally young generations. Okay, I mean, they provide a design, in-house design, that generally young people likes. Okay, so their main focus is that young couples, single people who live alone, they can buy the product and they can live in a simple atmosphere in their homes. So their main strategy is a cost focus, for example. Southwest Airlines is an American airline company. Actually, it's like a low-cost company who focus on low-income target group. Okay, like Pegasus, maybe it could be an equivalent of it. And what about differentiation focus? We can say Rolls-Royce, for example, serving luxury automobiles, right? I mean, they are maybe per year they are producing 100, at most 200 cars per year, for example, Rolls-Royce. But they can charge lots more prices than their rivals, right? For example, Bentley, they are producing their cars with their hands. I mean, they don't have an assembly line. So every piece of that product, actually, car is actually a piece of art. I mean, some very talented artist, very talented engineer designed that product, for example. Or Rolex watch, and there are some watch brands. I mean, for one single watch, they can ask millions of dollars, for example. I mean, these are actually called a focus differentiation strategy. I mean, a particular buyer group. Maybe this particular group is only 100 people. Okay, only 100 people. I mean, you want to sell your product that segment, so you don't need to compete with other rivals, other big cost leadership or differentiation strategies. It's what we call a focus strategy. Are we the differentiation between this cost leadership, differentiation, and focus strategy? You have any questions on that?
Not so far.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. Again, in this focus strategy, the 5 forces could be seen like this. Actually, you develop a core competency, okay, about a specific target group, and that target group is loyal to you. It's an entry barrier for other rivals. The buyer power, actually, there's few alternatives here. So they have low negotiation power. A supplier power, you can pass the supplier price to the end users, customers. And also you enjoy protection against substitutes and rivals because they cannot easily imitate your focus strategy, right? Because you have a specific target group. They get used to you. I mean, you cannot say that I will create a high luxury brand of watches, for example, and I will be a competitor with Rolex. I mean, maybe Rolex is a 100 years old company, right? I mean, it's very hard to fight with that brand image, brand loyalty. Okay, so there are also risks of focus. You have limited opportunities of growth. You need to sacrifice economies of scale. You have a less customer number in terms of number. The danger of decline in the chosen segment or niche. For example, you are selling these Rolexes, but however, since there are smart watches right now, and only the older people like classical watches, and maybe in 20 years, 30 years, you will not be able to sell regular watches because everyone will begin to use smart watches maybe, right? So it's a risk for you. Your target market is decreasing, is shrinking. It could be a risk. And risk of imitation, risk of changes in the target segment, blah, blah, blah. Same things. There's a important discussion as well, being stuck in the middle. Porter says that you need to choose between cost leadership and differentiation strategy. If you want to do them at the same time, if you at the same time you want to be a cost leader, but at the same time you want to differentiate your products, you could be stuck in the middle. But however, not everyone are agree with that. Okay, I mean, Porter says that profitability is high both in differentiation strategy and low cost strategies. However, if you try to both do that, you cannot enjoy this, he says. However, sometimes some other new perspectives says that you can apply them at the both time, okay? Simultaneously, you can do that. And many companies are doing that actually. I mean, when you think about, for example, big companies like Samsung, actually they follow both strategies together, okay? And generally in the literature, the stuck in the middle for some scholars is not accepted, and they want to prove that. And I think you read some paper about this, right? About stuck in the middle. Which one to decide? I mean, it depends on the context. It depends on the industry. It depends on the market. Each has its own risks. Each requires different capabilities. Actually, we talk about these risks, right? But to see them in one page. So low cost is risky because there could be price wars. It could damage your profits. Differentiation is risky because buyer sensitivity to price can be changed. I mean, in some case, the buyers like your product and want to give more money, but by time they can lose that loyalty. Okay, and imitation is a risk. And as focus, again, the segments, new segments could occur. Your segment could be shrink, and your focus strategy could be imitated. Okay, these are the things. You can read this. And sometimes these generic strategies are not applicable to everywhere, right? I mean, for example, if you are operating a restaurant chain, okay, and you want to apply a cost leadership strategy, maybe you spend very little on advertising, and the cost leadership strategy says that they don't want to lose money, they spend less money on advertisement. But when you look at BIM, they spend a considerable money on television advertising, right, and print advertising. But they also follow a cost leadership strategy. So a firm could engage both characteristics. I mean, both. The industry has a huge impact on that. Okay, not every industry follow the same rules, same characteristics, same strategies. Industry could be fragmented. What does that mean? Fragmented and consolidated. And a consolidated market, a market is dominated by a few large companies. A fragmented market, many small and medium-sized companies compete for a small share of the total market. So for each of those industries, the competitive strategies, the generic strategies can change, right? And not always competing, sometimes cooperating is better. For example, establishing strategic alliances with your rivals, okay, with the other companies. And there are other forms of strategic alliances. Actually, I think we will be talking about this, so I want to stop here to move on our presentations. But before that, do you have any questions about generic strategies? Okay, I'm stop recording now.